All right, I am joined here today with Dr. Danilo Mezzadri, the professor of flute at University of Southern Mississippi, Southern Mississippi, and a faculty member at Blue Lake Fine Arts Camp in Michigan. He's also the president and founder of the International Flute Workshop in Italy and the Southern Flute Festival in Mississippi. Danilo is considered one of the great names in Brazilian music. He has also appeared as a soloist with over 40 ensembles. He is principal of the Gulf Coast and North Mississippi Symphony Orchestras and has performed with the Quartetto Brasilis.
Correct.
Welcome, Danilo.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, and a virtual cheers.
It's virtual cheers. Good. To good coffee.
Yes. All right. So the first and maybe the most important question of the interview is, what kind of coffee are you drinking?
Oh, I got sucked up into drinking Nespresso coffee. It's the laziest way to make coffee, but it's fun. and it tastes great always. And so that's what I'm doing right now. I also, when I go to Brazil, I bring a lot of coffee from Brazil. And I noticed on this last trip that I did, there are also into Nespresso. So you find different brands of coffee made for those coffee machines. So this is what I'm digging right now.
Nice. Sounds awesome. All right, so I want to welcome everyone who's watching and viewers who will join us as well. It looks like Callie says hi.
Yes.
Callie Brewer. For anyone who is watching and would like to leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and maybe what kind of coffee you're drinking, we are going to be selecting one person from the comments to win our random Flutespresso giveaway. Today is a special giveaway. We'll be giving away one of Danilo's spider logs, which we'll talk about later on, and also one of his CDs.
Yay!
Yeah. So please leave a comment. All right. So we were just talking about Brazil, and you actually were recently in Brazil for concerts and master classes. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. So I was able to get a few days of in between this pandemic, to go down to Brazil, play, and I was lucky to organize a masterclass and a recital in my hometown. And thanks to Dizal and flute specialists, we were able to donate a flute to an association there that was dedicated to promoting and sharing instruments and promoting lessons to underprivileged students. So we were able to bring that instrument over there, and I played half of the recital on it, half of the recital on my regular flute. And after that, I traveled 6 hours north, and I played the same recital with my wife and a pianist here from the US. We played a flute, piano, and voice recital with a mixture of pieces. There were some flashy flute pieces, some opera areas. So it had fun for all the audience. And then I played the Brazilian premiere of the Magical Concerto for Flute, Piano, and Strings by the composer Armando Guidoni. He's an Italian composer who lives in France, and he writes in a jazzy, classical style, like Claude Bolling used to write, but it's a little faster. And a little more Latin sound to it. So we played a concerto at the end of the festival there, and flew here back to America.
Wow, sounds amazing.
It was
Sounds
fun.
like a wonderful getaway with a lot of great music.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're from Brazil and you play a lot of Brazilian music, a lot of your CDs that we have here as well. What's something that you want to share with everyone? I feel like we don't hear a lot of Brazilian music, at least like in the classical realm of music, or if you have any favorite pieces that you would recommend to anyone who's interested in Brazilian music.
Sure. So there are several composers of Brazilian music. Like we know Villa Lobos, that everybody, a lot of people know about him. But there are some other ones like Camargo Guarnieri or Oswaldo Lacerda that have written for the flute and having written very very well for that instrument, and as well as there are some living composers now in Brazil who have dedicated a lot of their efforts to the flute repertoire, and they write in a way that a listener from any other country or background will be recognizing the music and you'll be pleased with it. So it's nothing that only Brazilians can play that kind of music. So it's fun to listen to. The projects that I was involved with, one of them was to promote Brazilian music by living composers and music that was written at the break of the 21st century. So that CD has a more challenging repertoire, is more challenging for the listener, more challenging for the performer. It's fun to play. I had to learn circular breathing to play one of the pieces. So it took me a whole year to prepare that CD because I didn't know how to do it, and I had to learn and then, kind of get good at that so I could record it. But it's very very rewarding repertoire, and what I would encourage a non-Brazilian listener who might be interested to do is to start with materials for Guarnieri and Lacerda. I did record the solo pieces by those composers on my second CD. I think it's the one that you are giving away, this one right here.
Mm-hmm.
So this CD was after I did the first one with this very challenging, sometimes less rewarding repertoire. I decided to do something that my family would like to listen to, like a non flute aficionado would like to. And I came up with this repertoire that was written for flute competitions in Brazil to be played by high school or college students in Brazil for competitions down there. And those are pieces that we Brazilians don't play anymore, but they are fun to listen. They are very musical, very, very challenging, but and a normal listener, a known flute aficionado would enjoy as well. So this is my recommendation would be starting with this repertoire. It's for solo flute, but it's beautiful and it's fun to play. And all the pieces are around 3 or 4 minutes long, so they're shorter. Like they're kind of like the Brazilian equivalent of the French repertoire. That challenging but enduring. That's a fun start. That would be my recommendation.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great. And incredible that you learned circular breathing, might I just add. Something like I feel like so many of us dread. We're like, I don't think I'm going to get there.
I did dread a lot to learn that, but it's a trick. You learn, and it's easy to learn and to understand. It's harder to comprehend. It's harder to get it fluid. And on the stage that I know that on some range of the flute is easier than some other range, but
yeah. Great. Well, thanks for sharing some insight on Brazilian music. We have here at Flute Specialist, we listen to a lot of your CDs, and it's so fun to listen to the music that you're putting out. So thank you for enlightening us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so I have another question. You have been a faculty member at Blue Lake for quite some time. That's our neck of the woods here in Michigan. Tell us about your time at Blue Lake, how long you've been there, any like fun or interesting stories you have from Blue Lake?
Oh, well, there's a lot of stories that I cannot put here.
Darn it.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, um, American Pie, that movie. It's Blue Lake is the background for that. So, and but I started working there. I think 22 years ago, in the year 2000.
Wow.
And at that time, I was doing graduate studies at Michigan State, and they needed a substitute for the fourth session for one particular year. So I got called last minute to come and sub for someone, and then from there, I just keep kept coming every year. It's it is a lot of fun for the students. It's a festival that's dedicated. Um, the mission is to educate and enlighten the students who show up there, regardless of their background and regardless of their musical background. So you don't get stellar students. You don't necessarily get stellar students who will go to do a life as performers. You get some of those, but you also get an array of students who are interested in music, like to do it, and just want to get better, at either music or arts. So that's kind of fun. And the students, they learn their major, kind of called major, their music major, in the morning, and in the afternoon it's all camp activities where they have fun. And for us, the faculty means that we work during the morning, early in the afternoon, and then we have all kind of fun later on. Now that I have a family, that's the time that I take my kids to Lake Michigan and things like that. So it's a wonderful time for me, who I work deep south in the U.S. So for me to go to Michigan during the summer is a blessing. I don't have to, endure 90 degrees, 90% humidity. So I really enjoy the time that I do there. And Blue Lake has, as all the business has been challenging times during the last 2 years, and but they're coming back, and I'm looking forward to come back this summer again.
Oh, good. That'll be exciting. I'm glad it's back
Yes.
on.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had a lot of, high schoolers, especially passing through at Flute Specialists that are on their way to Blue Lake.
Exactly.
And so excited. And, you get to work with so many students and change their lives, which is
Yes.
incredible. Yeah,
Exactly.
awesome. Great. I'd like to ask you also, so as we mentioned, we'll be doing a giveaway for your CD and your spider log. So your spider log, can you just talk to us a little bit about it, how it works? I can show everyone kind of like what it looks like here, and who you would recommend it to.
Well, I would. It's kind of easy, an easy answer to say recommend to anyone. But when I was designing this, I visit my sister. She's a wonderful graphic designer, and she's the one who did the design of the little the logo, the little spider stickers, and all this kind of stuff. So she does that, and she's married to a German engineer. And as we're on the table talking about what was this about, and how would fit in your hand, how would you carry the product itself, and I was explaining to him, and he was like, "Oh, I could use this in my job as a mechanical engineer. Like, it's nothing to do with music." And so it's a very powerful tool to manage your time without having to use a stopwatch, or without having to yell to yourself, move on to the next thing or to the next thing. So it's a way to manage time, and also to interleave your practice. Now, interleave is a complicated term. I'll try to explain in a minute or less. It's interleaving is a way to revisit things that you should be practicing or activities that you should be doing in between other activities. A way to visualize interleaving is to imagine the petals of a flower or a rose, that one petal's on top of another. So if you imagine that those petals would be activities that you'll be doing, so you do something for a little bit, and then something else shows up, and then you come back to something else, and then you go to your original activity. That makes your brain learn and forget these activities, and the fact of learning, forgetting, and relearning increases retention tremendously. Now, doing that is challenging. So what the spider lock does, it creates, you create a list of 8 activities that you'll be choosing to interleave and practice. And then you create a little graph underneath of what you practice. So let me show you here what I've been doing in the last 3 days. I have a gig this weekend, and I have to play the Classical Symphony by Prokofiev. That's not easy, and I've been struggling on the 4th movement. So I had to do this a couple of days ago, where I put the date and I label what it is, and I label the rehearsal numbers and the metronome markings that I'm struggling, through it. And every time I practice one of those 8 things, I mark a line here. And my job is to make sure that I hit all those things on the little window of time that I have. So, for example, very real example, my kids are eating dinner downstairs or watching a little show downstairs on TV, and I have 20 minutes, and that's it. So during those 20 minutes, I'll try to hit all those 8 things and quickly rotate all of them. If I have another time free, I can go and revisit those things. That makes me, one, keep revisiting the little pesky parts on the Prokofiev Classical Symphony. 2, it makes me forget about them for a little bit and come back to that passage. And that doesn't hurt my fingers from repeating the same pattern over and over again, but it keeps my mind revisiting that. After 3 or 4 days of doing that, I'm secure that the piece is back to, when I did auditions for those with those excerpts. Mm-hmm. So it's something that I still use. Some of my students use for assigning different pieces that they need to learn. So instead of the 8 items on one particular piece, they have 8 items on 8 different pieces, or 3 different pieces with, they break it up the way they want. For someone who is not a music student, they might do 8 different projects that they need to work every day. Mm. So that's what it does. If you get this after this rotation here repeated enough times, 4 or 5 or 6 times, you get to earn a sticker. That it's right here, the little stickers. You take it out a little spider and you put there on that little spider web. It's kind of like a reward to yourself that you accomplished something. You managed to keep track of your project. Mm-hmm. And if some of the activities are completed, wonderful. If they're not, keep repeating them, move on. And you have this small sense of accomplishment of your practice. And one final element of this that I think is important is, let me see if I can show. This is a new book for me, so I don't have many examples here. Sometimes what happens, well, this book is too good. I got everything symmetrical there. I have to find some that I have a problem. Here, there's an older one here. Look at this here. This is Blue Lake. So this is, I was at Blue Lake practicing, and you can see that certain things I practice a lot, certain things I did not.
Mm-hmm.
And it clearly shows to you visually that certain things that you previously decide you're going to practice, in fact, when the rubber meets the road, you're not doing them, So then you have to, it creates a dialogue in between your original list and your reality. And that makes you address that by either substituting the activity that you're doing or revisiting the other activities to make sure that you can adjust your time and your priorities to that. For my students, they send a picture of the spider web before the lesson, or I see their book before the lesson. I know immediately if there are practicing. They're practicing every day or not because of the many repetitions that they have. And if there is a problem on the things that I assign to them, because sometimes I assign things that they don't like to practice. And then we have a healthy discussion about, well, let's find something else that they like, or let's manage the time better. So I think it helps a lot. It's one more tool, of practicing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm sold. I mean, that sounds, it's great for time management, like you were saying. And I feel like just looking at your graph, like I already know some of my practice habits, like one would be like, or one of the webs would just be like so far out and the other would just be empty, So that's a great tool. And I do like the size. I mean, it can fit in your flute case cover. So
Correct.
always have it with you.
Yes.
Awesome. Yeah. Great. Well, thank you for enlightening us on the spider log.
You're welcome.
They are
Thank
available at Flute Specialists for anyone who is interested. Yeah. Great. So you're talking about your students. I wondered if you had any tips for students who are listening, who are going through audition season. I think right now maybe like college audition time. What advice do you have?
Gosh, the old advice by J.J. Quantz, one of the oldest flute teachers and flute players. Never try to impress your audience or your committee by playing something that is difficult and you don't play well. So play what you like, play well. Obviously demonstrate your abilities, what can you do best, and listen during your audition. Listen to if there is a part on the audition where you're going to have an interaction with your possible future teacher. Be flexible to learn what they might be telling you, any advice that they might give to you. It's one thing that I try to observe on the students who audition to me is like how willing are they to be, how flexible they are to learn, or how flexible they are to perceive music. I sometimes play a little duets with them, so just to see if they can follow the rhythm. I'm not terribly interested on the final product on the audition. Obviously, that's important, but I'm more interested about what kind of student is that is coming to entering my studio. So as you're auditioning, you want to show that what kind of student you are, and so if you come to the audition with an open mind about that, about okay, this is what I can do best, this is the stage that I'm learning, you will have a very pleasant experience auditioning. If you're very defensive, or if you play things that you're not ready to play, the whole audition experience doesn't go very well, and it gives mixed signals to the teacher. In terms of fundamentals, we are, when I'm auditioning, I'm also thinking about what my colleagues in the orchestra and on the band are willing to see, are willing to receive. So it's important for me to see if the students or the prospective student can master the techniques of the instrument. So some studios, especially for undergrads, require certain scales. I do. And the reason for that is not to annoy the candidate, like play some scales for me, but it's to know if, like, okay, can this person, be sitting in the orchestra and be thrown a repertoire with a bunch of sharps? Can they survive in that, as an undergrad? And that type of thing. For a graduate student, I think the variety of the repertoire performed in the audition is more important than the length. We don't have the luxury of listening to someone for more than half an hour or so. Usually it's even less than that time. So demonstrate the ability to, even if it's not in depth, but the ability to play some modern repertoire, the ability to play some ornamentation in Baroque, the ability to have different vibrato for classical music or romantic repertoire. If you can demonstrate that, then you demonstrate that you're a more mature player, and someone who is deserving of a graduate level education. Um, and I think that's very, 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 very important on the audition. More than, should I play this excerpt or that excerpt or that excerpt? Those things are secondary. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Thanks for the advice, and good luck to everyone who is auditioning right now.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that you were working on classical symphony. What else are you working on right now? Do you have any upcoming projects?
Yes, I have the pleasure of be hosting Michel Belevans. He's a phenomenal flute player, and he's coming from Switzerland to be here for a day here at Southern Miss for a master class. He's playing a short recital here, and he's playing at Mid South. He's the honor guest artist over there, and I'm doing with him the Kulau trio for two flutes and piano. So this is on my music stand right now, my digital music stand. I do everything on the iPad now. I can.
Oh, nice.
I don't do pages paper anymore. I got comfortable with the pedal, and so now I'm good. So this is what I'm doing right now. Later on the semester, I'll be playing with my colleague Elizabeth Moak. I recorded just before the pandemic a CD with featuring Cesar Frank, a sonata, Schumann Three Romances, and then transcribed a sonata by Reynaldo Hahn. He was born in Venezuela, lived his entire life in France. Wrote marvelous songs and music for strings, and he wrote a violin sonata in C major, and I transcribed that for flute. It's really, really pretty. And so I'll be playing that CD, relaunching the CD now here at the Festival South, is an event here in Hattiesburg. So I'll be playing the CD, and I have to send to you guys this CD. This is a new CD that I recorded.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of like new old CD, but so we'll be featuring that recording soon. This semester. So those are the new things that I'm in my music stand right now practicing.
Wow. Nice. Sounds like a great variety of music.
Yeah.
Cool. Um, Okay, let's talk about some of the flute events. So you are involved in a lot of different flute festivals. There's one in Italy, you have one at your university, and coming up next week,
Yep.
Mid-South.
Yep.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about your involvement in all of those festivals.
So Mid South is happening very soon, and I'm the past president there, so I'm kind of glad that I'm not dealing with that, like. And but it's a very as an association that's very dear to my heart. It's for us here in the Mississippi area or in the South area is the biggest event. There is the Louisiana Flute Festival where we from South Mississippi are kind of like honorary members. Um, and so this is happening. We're bringing guest artists from Europe in a couple of years. We'll be hosting the festival here at Southern, and we're bringing Andrea Oliva, who is a superstar name. So that he'll be here in a couple of years. So this is very exciting for me. And the Southern Flute Festival was supposed to happen in January, but I managed to arrive here from Brazil in one piece. But my wife tested positive on the day before, and I was feeling a little iffy. So we had to cancel a lot of that part of that event. We are redoing the festival. The 2022 event is still happening, but instead of January, it will be happening in November. You'll be featuring Carla Reese from the Royal Academy. She is absolutely fantastic. She's a low flutes specialist, a phenomenal player, besides her phenomenal playing in the low flutes as well. A terrific arranger, so she has been doing a lot of arranging for flute ensembles. So we'll be featuring her in November. And in May, we'll be doing a festival in Italy that I organize with some of my colleagues over there. I was in Italy a couple weeks ago, or no, last week, and having some meetings, doing some master classes and performances over there. And we're very excited about that festival. It's a little more selective in terms of the number. It's a smaller festival. We're selective on the first come first serve basis. We try to give opportunity for everybody who shows up at the festival to perform and visit, and most important, experience Italian food and the Italian atmosphere. That festival happens in the small city of Roccasecca. It's a city up in the mountains in between Rome and Naples, and it's the city where St. Thomas de Aquinas was born. So it has some pilgrimage in there. There's the ruins of the castle where his ancestors were from, and we're from there. And also is the city where Severino Gazzelloni, like one of the first big names of the modern flute playing, was born. So there's a statue of a flute player in there in the city.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of fun. And we'll be this year we'll be performing in Roccasecca. We'll be performing Castle Forte, which is a thermal water station where the students will be visiting. So you need to bring a swimsuit so you can go to the thermal baths and then play a recital. We'll be doing a recital on the little city on the top of the hill. There's a tiny little church called Caprio, and we'll be doing a recital over there as well. And we'll be doing some visits, like we'll be visiting the Abbadia de Monte Cassino, which is the after the Vaticano is the biggest abbey. It's incredibly ornamented, incredibly beautiful, gorgeous. It was destroyed during the Second World War and it was rebuilt again. And then when I learned about that, I start reading the story, I learned that abbey was destroyed 6 other times.
Oh my gosh.
By previous by the Romans, so it was an old temple that has been rebuilt many times. So it's a fun festival to visit, to play. All the students get to perform in flute ensemble or by themselves, and we are featuring guest artists from the Siena Conservatory. He's going to be our main teacher. I'll be teaching. Carlos Feller will be teaching. He's from here in America. And we also be teaching the Quarteto Image. Is an Italian all-female quartet. They will be giving master classes on flute ensemble and quartet music. And you'll be featuring Fabio Colagiani. He's a piccolo player of the army band and also teacher in several conservatories in Italy. So also a phenomenal player. But only 22 applicants can be accepted, and so it's a very, very select amount of people that we can, properly host, because the city is small, the number of hotels and bread and breakfasts is small, and then we want to give attention to everybody. So it's
Right.
if you're interested in that, contact me. Go to the International Flute Workshop website and register, because it's gonna close very soon.
We'll post
I'm
it on
happy
our
about that. Yeah.
we'll post it on our Facebook too. But
Yeah.
yeah, it sounds like a beautiful event.
Yeah.
And getting all the culture of Italy. Sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we're always excited to, sponsor and attend the festivals here in the States. Mid-South will be there, and then the Southern Flute Festival. We're always there. So
Yes.
yeah, it's always a good time, especially escaping the cold. So
Yeah. Yes,
please,
exactly.
please make sure the Southern Flute Festival is like happening when it's snowing here. That'll be great. We need the escape.
I'll try.
Thanks. All right, Danilo. Well, it's been so wonderful talking with you. I have a quick round of it's called our Flutespresso Express round. Just a quick round of this or that questions, flute and non-flute related stuff. I think I know the answers to a few, but it's okay. We're just gonna go right into it. Okay. So piccolo or alto flute?
Ooh, alto flute.
Alto flute. Okay. I don't know if you've been watching the Olympics religiously like I have been, but winter or summer Olympics?
Oh, Summer Olympics. I do like the one that they do like this. What's the name that
the curling?
Curling. I do like that.
Oh my gosh, curling. That's amazing. Everyone loves curling. You hate it when you first see it. You're like, what's going on? And then
exactly.
you get sucked in. Yep.
Yeah.
Mozart in G or D?
Oh, that's a tough one. Mozart, Mozart G.
G. Dogs or cats?
Dogs, but I have cats.
Okay. Chamber music or large orchestral music?
Chamber music.
Sweet or savory?
Savory.
Yeah. Romantic music or Baroque music?
Oh, that's interesting. Romantic, yeah.
And finally, coffee or tea?
Coffee. Oh, definitely coffee. My wife is tea, but I have espresso machines in my office, at home, in the other office.
All right, our kind of people.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll post this later too on YouTube. And yeah, we really appreciate your time, Danilo.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for all the support and all the things you do.